things first. I want to talk about the Final Four. I did go to the Final Four. So for most people that know me, I did go, and I mentioned that I went to LA. My reason for going to LA was I had said while had the means and while I had the capability, I wanted to be at the first time that Alabama made a Final Four. I want to be at that Elite Eight game so that I would always be able to say I was at the first time we won an Elite Eight game to make the Final Four. And when we cut down the nets, that was a really special experience that I wanted to have. So I did go to LA. I was able to experience that. It was absolutely incredible. So the decision was super easy. I have to be at the Final Four, right? As long as I have the means, again, if I can find a place to stay, if I can find a flight, I want to be in Phoenix for the Final Four. So I immediately began looking at flights, began looking at options, and came to find that the Final Four is incredibly A, expensive, and B, difficult to get to. Because so many people have booked trips, whether it be media or college basketball fans, have booked trips to the Final Four in preparation for this event. So getting flights into Phoenix was one of the most difficult things. So I decided, well, if I'm going to have to rent a car or get an Uber anyways, what if I just fly into Tucson? So that's actually what I did. I flew into Tucson on Friday night after work. Drove up from Tucson on Friday, spent all day Saturday at the game, kind of in surrounding areas of the game. The tip-off tailgate that they had there outside the stadium, hung out with Danny, Stu, that I know some people here know, and just had a really fun time at the game. Then went into the game, saw the Purdue versus NC State game, sat in the Alabama section, which was kind of the Purdue section in certain parts because Purdue had the majority of the stadium and seemed to have bought up quite a lot of Alabama fans' tickets. But they were in all sections of the stadium, so it wasn't just Alabama fans that had sold those tickets. And then had that Alabama-UConn game. It doesn't end exactly how we had hoped, but nevertheless, I was in Phoenix for the Final Four. And then on Sunday, I went to for the Fan Fest. And the Fan Fest was inside the Phoenix Civic Center or Convention Center, and it was absolutely incredible. They had all their corporate partners, had booths set up. There was basketball shooting in different spots. There was a football area. There was a baseball area. They ended up having a 3-on-3 tournament that DeMarcus Cousins was in, and Cam Newton, and Swaggy P, and Paul Pierce, and there was just all sorts of things with tons and tons of fans, all there for college basketball. If you've ever been to like an SEC baseball tournament that happens in Hoover or any of these big championship events, it was like that, but on a much grander scale. And it was a very, very fun event. I thought that the NCAA did a really, really good job, and the city of Phoenix did a really good job embracing the Final Four. Everywhere you went around Phoenix, you saw things about the Final Four. I was actually taking Nate Oates Burner back to the airport, and I saw a sign on the freeway, which I will actually post here. But the sign was talking about, your one shining moment. The sign was trying to get people to, I believe it was to buckle their seatbelts. Again, I'll flash it up here on the screen. But they were looking for their one shining moment, right? So everything about the city was embracing the Final Four. I thought that the city of Phoenix did a really, really good job. For the number of people that were at the stadium, I thought the getting into and out of the stadium was as good as you could have asked for. It took a little bit to get in, but once I left the stadium, we actually made it on the main roads fairly quickly. It was not actually all that bad in the Phoenix area. I thought that the city really embraced what the Final Four had to offer and was an awesome, awesome host. And I'm really, really glad that I went because, again, I think a Final Four is something that should be on everyone that considers himself a sports fan. It should be on your bucket list, and it should absolutely be something that you want to go to. And if your team is in it, even better. I got some pictures that I am really going to cherish where Alabama is in that bracket of the Final Four teams, and the exposure that this got for the university and for the Alabama basketball team is absolutely incredible, and is probably in large part what we're going to talk about a little later in Nate Oates, being at Alabama and having his commitment to the university.